All right, so welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at something that I'm really excited about. It's about video game hype.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, you sent over some really amazing material on what makes certain games so, hotly anticipated. And I got to be honest, I'm kind of dying to get into this stuff.
Yeah, it's a very cool topic.
It's not just about, making a list of what everybody's excited about.
Yeah.
I think it's more about, digging into the why.
I think you're right. I think it's definitely a mix of psychology, great marketing, and of course, just, the games themselves, like how the world of gaming is always changing and the new stuff that's coming out all the time. I'm excited to dig in and see what we can find in these sources you've got.
Yeah, me too. One thing that jumped out at me was this top 10 list of types of games.
Uh-huh.
The ones that get people talking,
Mm.
we're talking sequels, indie games, these big open world RPGs, you name it.
Sounds about right.
It's like a snapshot of what gamers are really craving. But what I'm interested in is why these categories get everyone so hyped up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's start with sequels. I think there's something really powerful about going back to worlds and characters that you already know and love.
Mm.
It's almost like catching up with old friends. But it can be hard for the people making the game, the developers, to get it right.
Oh, for sure.
Like if they just rely on, nostalgia and give you the same old thing, it can feel really stale.
Yeah.
But if they change too much, it might not feel like the game you loved in the first place.
Yeah, it's like if you change it too much, is it really a sequel anymore?
Exactly. And I'm sure we've all had that experience of being so hyped for a sequel and then,
Total letdown.
yeah. Do you remember insert name of disappointing sequel here?
Ugh, don't even remind me.
Yeah. It's tough because everyone had such high hopes, but then you have these indie games
Yeah, yeah.
and they kind of turn all that on its head. They like thrive on doing something completely new. The excitement there is all about like the promise of something fresh and unique. A game that doesn't follow the rules, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what I love about them. It's like that feeling of finding a hidden gem, You're
Yeah.
just like, whoa, this is amazing.
Totally.
But it's not always about just the new ideas. Like when we talk about the new consoles coming out, the next generation of consoles, those exclusive,
Ah,
there's
yes.
like a whole technical side to that hype too, right?
For sure. Every time new hardware comes out, it means better graphics, faster processing speeds, and sometimes even brand new ways to actually play the game. It's not even just about the games themselves, it's about what that new technology can do.
Yeah, like stepping into the future of gaming,
Yeah.
pushing the limits of
Yeah.
what's possible. And while we're on the topic of things that push the limits, we got to talk about open world RPGs.
Mm.
They always get people talking, right?
Yeah.
It's not just that these worlds are massive, it's the freedom you get in them, right?
Totally. Open world games really tap into our desire to explore and discover new things. There's actually like a psychological thing going on there.
Really?
Yeah, we get a sense of satisfaction from finding secret stuff, mapping out new places, and it feels like you're in control of what happens to you in the game.
You're not just playing, you're like living in that world. And speaking of feeling like you're really there, there's VR games.
Oh, yeah.
They try to take you to another reality completely. Why do you think VR gets so much hype?
Well, I think VR promises something truly different, something that really blurs the line between what's real and what's not. People get excited because it feels like stepping into worlds that we could only dream of before. Even though VR is still pretty new, it's amazing to see what developers are doing with it.
I know, right? It
Oh,
feels like we're on the edge of a whole new era of gaming.
it really does.
But sometimes it's cool to look back to,
Sure.
remakes and remasters tap into something we all feel, nostalgia.
Nostalgia is a powerful thing.
It is. It gives us a chance to revisit games we loved, but they look and feel brand new.
Right. And the best remakes are the ones that keep what was great about the original, but they make it even better for today's players.
Yeah, it's like getting the best of both worlds. But we can't forget about the social side of gaming.
Oh, absolutely.
Multiplayer games and those co-op experiences have gotten super popular.
Yeah.
And there's a whole new level of excitement around playing with other people. What do you think is driving that?
Well, humans are naturally social. We like to connect with others, and games give us a way to do that. Whether it's working together with friends or competing against each other, those multiplayer games just make those feelings of like friendship and excitement even stronger.
I think you're right. It's all about building those communities, those friendships,
Yes.
sharing those wins and fails together.
Exactly. Those online communities are a huge part of gaming now.
Absolutely.
And the people making the games, the developers, are realizing that it's really important to support those communities.
They're really important. And speaking of developers, there's a whole other level of hype when a studio that's known for making great games announces a new project.
Oh, totally. You know those studios I'm talking about, the ones that have a reputation for quality and making really innovative games.
Yeah, the ones where when they announce a new game, you just know it's going to be good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when your favorite band announces a new album, you trust them, you know their style, but you're also kind of excited to see what they've come up with this time, you know?
It is. It's like that feeling of opening a present when you don't know what's inside, but you know it's going to be something amazing.
That's a great way to put it. And you know, our sources actually talk about some really important things that contribute to all that hype. It's not just about the games themselves. They point to things like the developer's reputation, their marketing campaigns, how they engage with the community, and those big gaming events that everyone looks forward to.
Okay, so we've talked about what kinds of games get people hyped.
Right.
But now I want to talk about the stuff that really amps it up. The marketing tactics, the ways they build communities, the stuff that drives everyone crazy with excitement. I'm ready to dive into the psychology of hype.
Okay, I like it.
What do you say we unpack all those factors in the next part of our deep dive?
Let's do it. It's funny, you know, we've talked about all these different types of games that get people excited, but at the end of the day, anticipation, it's like a really personal thing.
That's true. What gets one person hyped might not do anything for someone else.
Exactly.
Mm.
So how do we figure out what makes us excited as gamers?
Yeah, how do we get to that personal level?
Well, I think it starts with understanding what we're looking for in a game. Like, what are the things that really make us want to play?
Right, right.
Is it the challenge, like mastering a tough action game? Or maybe it's getting lost in a really good story. Or maybe it's the feeling of exploring a huge world where you can go anywhere and do anything.
Yeah, it's like figuring out what kind of gamer you are deep down. What makes you tick? For me, it's got to be a good story.
Yeah.
Give me interesting characters, a story that makes me think, and choices that actually affect what happens. And I'm there.
I get that. And that's a great example of how our personal tastes shape what we look forward to. Someone who loves a good story might not care about a multiplayer shooter, you know?
Right, right.
Even if it's a really well-made game, it's just not their thing.
So how do we get better at figuring out what we like? Like, how do we know what really makes us excited about a game?
I think it helps to just think back on all the games you've played.
Yeah.
Which ones did you really enjoy? What were the things about those games that you really liked? And which ones are the games that you still think about even after you've finished them?
It's like looking at all the games you own and trying to spot the patterns.
Exactly.
Like, I've noticed that I always go for games with a really cool atmosphere
Uh-huh.
and a sense of mystery.
Oh, I like that.
You know, games where you feel like you're uncovering secrets and solving puzzles.
That's awesome. And once you start to see those patterns, you can use them to help you pick your next game.
Yeah, totally.
You might find yourself drawn to certain developers or looking for certain keywords when you're reading about a game.
Right.
You might even start looking for communities online where people like the same kinds of games you do.
So it's all about knowing yourself better as a gamer.
Yeah. And using that knowledge to find the games you'll really love.
I like that. But let's bring this back to anticipation. How does knowing what we like affect how excited we get for new games?
Well, I think when we know what makes us tick as gamers, it's easier to spot the games that are going to be our thing. We can be more picky, less swayed by all the hype, and really focus on the games that match what we're looking for.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've been talking about what gets people excited and how to figure out our own tastes.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, what kind of game would you, like, personally want to see made? Like your dream game?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let's do a little thought experiment.
Okay.
Imagine you can make any game you want, no limits. What would it be?
Okay, I'm game.
Hmm.
I don't even know where to start.
Well, how about this? What genre would it be?
Ooh, good question. Would it be just one genre or like a mix of different ones?
Anything goes.
I think I'd go for a mix.
Okay.
I love those big open world RPGs where you have so much freedom,
Yeah.
but I also really enjoy the challenge of action adventure games
Uh-huh.
So maybe a mix of those two
I like it.
with some puzzle elements thrown in too.
Oh, that's cool. A game where you can explore at your own pace, but you also have those moments of intense action and brain-bending puzzles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what about the world? Would it be a world everyone knows, like a historical setting or something completely new?
That's up to you.
You know, I've always been fascinated by myths and legends.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe my game would be set in a world inspired by those stories. Like, imagine a huge world full of ancient ruins and mythical creatures with a really deep history to uncover.
That sounds awesome. A world just begging to be explored. Now, what about the story itself? Would it be a straightforward story, a branching one with multiple endings, or something else entirely?
Ooh, definitely branching.
Yeah,
I love games where your choices actually matter, where you can end up with completely different outcomes depending on what you do.
I know what you mean.
It makes you want to play it again and again. Plus, it makes the experience feel more personal.
For sure. It's so satisfying to see how your actions change things. Now, let's talk about visuals. Would you want your game to look super realistic, or would you prefer a more stylized look?
I'm all about the stylized graphics.
Oh, yeah.
I think a unique art style can really bring a game to life. Maybe
Uh.
something with a painterly feel, like a moving painting.
I love that. It would be like stepping into a dream. Now, what about the music? Would you go for a big orchestral score, something more electronic and atmospheric, or maybe a mix of different styles?
Music is so important for setting the mood, right?
It really is.
I think I'd want a soundtrack that combines orchestral music with folk instruments and maybe even some electronic sounds. Something that feels both ancient and otherworldly.
That's amazing. A soundtrack that really captures the magic and mystery of the world you've created. And speaking of sound, what about sound effects? Would you focus on realistic sounds or use them in a more stylized way to create atmosphere?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think a mix would be best,
Okay.
like realistic sounds for everyday things and characters talking, but then use more creative sounds for magic spells and the creatures in the world.
Gotcha. So it sounds like we've got a really cool mix of genres, a world inspired by myths and legends, a story that changes based on your choices, a beautiful art style, and a soundtrack that blends all sorts of sounds together.
It does, doesn't it?
What else would you want in your dream game?
Hmm. We've talked a lot about the game itself, but I think the most important part is who would actually make it.
Oh, right, the developer.
Yeah. Who could you trust to bring this whole vision to life?
Yeah, that's a big one. The developer can make or break a game, even if the idea is amazing. Would you choose a studio that's known for its technical skills, its storytelling, its world building, or maybe all three?
That is a tough question. I think for this game, I'd go with a studio that's known for making worlds that feel real and telling stories that really get to you.
Okay.
A studio that's not afraid to try new things and push the boundaries of what stories in video games can be.
I like it. A studio that really understands how to give players choices that matter and make the world feel alive.
So, we've got a pretty good idea of what your dream game would be.
We do.
We've talked about the genre, the setting, the story, how it looks, the music, the sounds, and even who would make it.
It's amazing how much we were able to come up with just by thinking about what we like and what makes games really special.
It is. But,
Okay.
there's something else about anticipation that we haven't really talked about yet. The element of surprise.
Oh, yeah, those moments when a game just comes out of nowhere and blows you away. Exactly. I think that's a perfect way to transition into the last part of our deep dive.
Yes, surprise. I think we've all got those games. The ones that came out of nowhere and just blew us away.
Oh, totally. There's something special about that anticipation that builds when something is like a total secret.
Right. It's like when you know what you're getting for your birthday versus being completely surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
And those surprise reveals, man, some of them are so good. Think about E3, right?
Oh, yeah.
When they drop a trailer and the whole place goes nuts, there's like an art to building that kind of hype, keeping things secret, and then teasing just a little bit.
For sure. And it's tricky. Too much too soon and people lose interest.
Right.
But if you're too secretive, you might not get people talking early enough.
Mm.
The best surprises, I think, are the ones that find that sweet spot between mystery and getting people excited.
Yeah, it's like a magic trick, keeping everyone guessing until the very end. But even before the big reveal, there's all this speculation, right?
Yeah.
People love to dig through rumors, look for clues, and try to figure out what's coming next. It's all part of the fun.
It is. That's actually one of the coolest things about how people get excited for games. It becomes this, like, group effort. The whole
Yeah.
gaming community is trying to solve this puzzle together.
Yeah. We're all part of the story before the story even starts.
Exactly. And those conversations and theories, they can be just as exciting as playing the game itself.
Sometimes, though, all that speculation can backfire.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you build something up so much in your head
Yeah.
and then it doesn't live up to it, it can be a real bummer.
It's like when you hear amazing things about a movie, right?
Yeah.
You go in expecting it to be the best thing ever,
Yeah.
and then it's just okay.
Exactly. I think that just goes to show how powerful anticipation is. It can make us love something even more,
Right.
but it can also make us feel let down if it doesn't match what we imagined. Something for both gamers and developers to think about.
It is. So as we wrap up our deep dive into video game hype, what's the one thing you want to leave people with?
I think the big takeaway is that anticipation, it's not just hype, it's way more complicated than that. It's about our personal tastes, how developers market their games, how excited the community gets, and yeah, just the thrill of not knowing what's coming next.
I love that. It's about all those different pieces coming together to create that feeling of anticipation. And it's about enjoying the whole ride, from the rumors and speculation to the excitement and even, yeah, maybe a little disappointment sometimes. It's all part of being a gamer.
Perfectly said.
Well, it's been awesome geeking out about games with you.
Likewise, always a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thanks for diving deep with us. Until next time, keep playing, keep exploring, and keep that excitement for what's next alive.